afternoon, my friends. It is a interesting day today because it is a day that is laden with heaviness and sadness, but yet it is a day also laced with hope. So this dichotomy leaves me in a quandary as how to describe it, but it is your friend Carl. And as I was taking over this medium's body, I showed him a vision, and he was quite moved by it because he understood the significance of what is described in the book of books at such an event. Because as I stood behind him to take over his body, there are other spirits behind me, and they are each one of them holding up a torch of light, and the line behind me seems endless and countless. We are here to help you through the times you are facing. We are here to help bring the light of truth and understanding to your world, which is still filled with darkness and ignorance. For the battle between the light and the dark is on. It truly began 20 years ago this very day and has continued since. But as each year has progressed, this war between darkness and light has intensified because we are working up towards a crescendo. We are working up to where the forces of good and evil will have to combat each other. Know without a shadow of a doubt that goodness will win. It is written in the book of books of a battle where the prophet was describing a battle of soldiers of light in the world of spirit, lighting up the way. And this is what we are doing once again. We are there. Know that we are connected to each and every one of you here today. Know that you are not walking alone. You are walking with a band of people behind you, a band holding their light high. We ask you to hold your light high in the world of the physical. We ask you to be a bright beacon to the world and therefore bring truth to the world. It is not going to be easy as the days go on, and the days to come will have many challenges, but we ask you always to take a deep breath and to connect with us, for we are there. We will guide you, we will help you, we will inspire you, we will put words in your mouth to be able to teach people along the way of what needs to be done. Do not walk in fear, walk in confidence and in knowingness, for we are the light and we are strong. And these are the words I wish to share with you today. It is now time for us to ask for the first question to be asked.
Well, thank you so much, Carl, and friends, for being here. We appreciate it. The first question is from Fenton. Could you please shed light on the difference between advanced alien civilizations that can travel across the universe at the speed of thought, perform complex healings, and are willing to help us Earth folks? Many races already appear to have crossbred with us and are trying to change our DNA in a positive way. How does that agenda differ from our spirit guides, master teachers, and ascended masters?
In many ways, it is similar to a staircase. The spirit people you talk about are on the lower rungs of the lower rungs of the staircase, while the other aliens are on a higher. It is not a question of difference per se. They're all on the same mission. However, what is different is each and every human on the planet. Some humans can only deal with the ones on the lower levels. If they were to encounter ones on the higher levels, they wouldn't be able to understand. Their energy would be too intense for them. They would not, they'd freak out. They would not be able to respond. So they have to work with ones on the lower end of the spectrum, which is not threatening, which they can relate to. And eventually, as their spirituality grows, they may be in contact with the higher entities, the more alien, if you want to call it that. But life is all similar. It doesn't really matter what universe you're in or what planet you are on. It's all, in a sense, similar. Now, the DNA might be different. The creatures' forms may be different. They may look different, but the energy, the spiritual energy that is within their bodies is very, very similar. You are existing in a human form, but that doesn't mean that the energy is so greatly different on another planet. Unfortunately, the human form has been stifled for such a long time that their growth and spirituality has been diminished because religions were controlling the people. They only wanted them to know what they wanted them to know, and they suppress so much knowledge and understanding that you are now kind of the pre-kindergarten stage of civilizations in the universe. The other civilizations are in college, have master's degrees. There are vast differences between the knowledge and the spirituality of the people because of their what they have been taught or not taught. And therefore, we're the human beings, the earthlings, are still in a very primitive form. But as the new age approaches, they are going to get a rapid education and go up the scale to where they're graduating high school at least, and therefore the gap between these entities will no longer be so great. And the higher or more advanced, I should say, let's get rid of the higher, the more advanced creatures and inhabitants of other planetary systems will be able to communicate with Earthlings, and it will not be such a shock and such a fear and everything else that was programmed. It is all in a scale of a spectrum, and therefore you will be changing your frequencies, changing your knowledge base, and accessing higher and more advanced creatures and individuals as time passes.
Thank you. The next question comes from Lee. So when a passing crossover occurs, or almost occurs, but does not, many typically say things to the effect of, it was just their time, or it wasn't their time yet. However, when physical death occurs, is there really and truly such a thing as it's just their time or it's not their time? Or is it that when a physical demise occurs or almost occurs, it has nothing to do with spirit, it's just how it goes?
When a soul inhabits the physical body of a little baby, it comes with, if you want to use the term, an expiration date, a date when it is scheduled to go back into the spirit world. Sometimes that date is shorter for some people than for others, and therefore some people go into the world of spirit at a much younger age. That date, that expiration date, if you use that term, is not exactly set in stone. It can be somewhat modified depending on the person's experience, on the person's what they've learned. If they come to a point where they come to the world to accomplish certain tasks and certain experiences, and they have accomplished that, and it is still before their expiration date, they can choose to shorten it a bit. So it is not exactly set in stone, but for most people, it is. For most people, unfortunately, come into the world without and do not access and do not learn the spiritual truths enough. So therefore, they're walking blind. They don't understand what's happening, and therefore they muddle through their lives and they reach their expiration date, go back into spirit, have a reawakening, find out what they did do right, what they didn't do right according to their own agenda, and therefore come back again in order to correct it. But it is not exactly set in stone because some people can achieve what they want and therefore can choose to leave earlier.
Thank you. The next question comes from Joan. When will we see a clear sign publicly that the deep state is on its way down and the good people, the white hats, are winning?
Unfortunately, it's battle between the light and the dark. It's very, very much like a tug of war where the both sides are trying to pull the other side across the finish line and become dominant. That that dynamic of pulling on both sides. Sometimes one side is winning, sometimes the other side's winning. It goes back and forth, and therefore the future of the what can be achieved is in flux. And we cannot give you a certain time. We cannot give you a date when this will occur. In the book of books, the master that you call Jesus, Joshua ben Joseph, was asked when he was coming back. And he also said, I cannot give you a date and a time because some things in the future are in flux. Jesus himself will not be coming back as the second coming. The second coming will be the spirit living within each and every person in full capacity and being utilized as best that can be done. People using the gifts of the spirit on a regular basis, just as he did during his life. That is what will occur. But he couldn't give you an exact time. I cannot give you an exact time, but I can give you that in the end, light will win. It will take some time in order to extinguish and put down the darkness, but we cannot say exactly when that will be.
Okay, and thank you for that encouragement. The next question is from Susan. Today, we are honoring those who lost their lives on 9/11. It is my understanding that they actually had a soul agreement to do so. Can you kindly elaborate on that? Also, who was actually responsible for the bombings and destruction that day? I understand there is a cover up on that, and it is actually part of the ongoing deception. Thanks so much.
I can assume that most of you, when I say the word Grand Canyon, have some sort of visualization of what that's like, where you're standing on a mountaintop and can look out over this grand canyon, this opening that seems to go on forever and ever. In the world of spirit, when a soul decides to come into the physical world, they can have a similar experience of looking over that canyon, but they are not looking at rocks. They are looking at time. They are looking at events, and they are having some understanding of what's happening. The day you are commemorating was seen many, many years ago. It was seen as a day of darkness and a day of tragedy when people would be attacked and many would lose their lives through no fault of their own. For some people, or I should say, excuse me, most people who lost their lives on this day were ones who had agreed and knowledge before they came into the physical world that their expiration date, as was stated a little while ago, would be 9/11/2001. They had that understanding. They carried it in their souls. They had that understanding as they lived their lives, that that would be the day when they would transition into spirit. For they understood that, in a sense, this was an inevitable part of the, I'll use the word war, between the good and the bad. As you asked, there was certain preparations made in the buildings so that when the planes hit, they would crumble. If you think about this, many, many years before, there was a plane that went off course and hit the Empire State Building. That building did not crumble. That building did not was destroyed. Yes, it had some damage and the damage was repaired, but it did not collapse. That building was made decades before the World Trade Centers. Do you not think that construction techniques improved in those decades? There were certain implements put in that building to cause it to collapse because the forces who wanted to control people used that day as a day to first get their hands on limiting the freedom of people in the world. They want to control the world. They do not want you to think. They want to make you more like robots and follow every little detail that they want. And their whole idea is to control everyone, to control all the money, to control all the prosperity, and to enslave mankind, or humankind is a better word. And therefore, that was the start. Because after that day, you began to lose your freedom. You had to be searched to go on an airplane. You had all kinds of restrictions begin on your freedoms. And with each passing the disaster or passing event, more and more freedom was taken away until you are now dealing with this situation of this man-made virus that was put into the world intentionally in order to slaughter many, many people because the powers to be think that there are too many people on the planet. And besides, if they want to control everyone, it's easier if there's less people. So they put out this virus to eliminate people. And therefore, it is all part of their plan. We want you to understand that what is happening And we want you to understand the truths, the spiritual truths that you are learning. And we want you to live them and be an example of them to the best of your ability. For that is the only way to conquer the darkness. You can't conquer the darkness with more darkness. You have to conquer it with the light. And as was stated before, there is an army that has grown of, of spiritual warriors, of light warriors in the world of spirit. And there are warriors that walk with you now. There are spirit people that are with you to encourage you and inspire you to live your truths and to be an example and a beacon of light into the physical world, so that eventually, as the light grows in more and more people, it will terminate the darkness. It will be illuminated and eventually eradicated, and the world of a age of knowledge will be established, as has been prophesied.
Thank you. The next question is from Carol. What is the intent behind building all the FEMA camps? Who will be housed there?
The FEMA camps that you are talking about are being designed for people that they do not want around. That is the people who are walking with the dark hats, as you say. The people that they are really afraid of are the people who have knowledge, the people who have light, and they are going to want to eradicate them. The people also who are fighting and being resistant to their mandates of getting this vaccine. It is also intended for those people, where they will try to suggest that being unvaccinated threatens the people who are vaccinated. However, as some of you may be aware, there are certain countries in your world where almost all the people have been vaccinated and they are still having high degree of COVID. The vaccines that they are putting out do not treat the virus for very long. The antibodies grow weak, and therefore they can become susceptible to the virus, even though they have been vaccinated over a period of time. We need you to understand that the vaccines are really a control mechanism, for there are certain chemicals within it that can be activated through certain frequencies and cause certain negative reactions to happen. So we ask you to, if you have not had the vaccine, not to get it. And if you have, we are also working on negating the content of what's in those vaccines, and so that when they push the button and they think that something will happen, that it doesn't. So we are in the process of working on that as well. So that is the intent of these camps. They are not a positive thing, and you need to be aware of their existence and what they are potentially for.
Okay. On the vaccines, and okay, I have a question to follow up on that, because I've been working with myself because of a issue I went through this summer, and I believe I contracted not just a cold and pneumonia, but I think there was a virus in there. But I was working energetically and with spirit to clear my body of that, and I believe I have. So I'm wondering if the same kind of energetic work can help people who have taken the vaccine to clear them of any harm from it. And if I did such work, would I be able to protect myself from not taking on anything else from someone who was vaccinated?
The answer to your question lies in your knowledge of how to manifest. For when you sit down and do your manifestation techniques and work on telling your body to be resistant to the vaccine, to the virus, therefore, you will manifest what you need in order to resist the virus. Where you have the knowledge of the techniques of manifestation, and therefore you can go forth and create that situation. Yes, you can work energetically. You can manifest. You can command your soul to protect your body, and so you could go into situations where you might have potential of contracting the virus, but yet your body will fight it off because you have been working all along. In a sense, you are creating a spiritual vaccine to prevent the virus from attacking you. Energetically, this is possible. And yes, you can do this. But, and this is a big but, for some people who are more on the fence about manifestation, when doubt comes into it, it negates everything and stops it from happening, as you understand. You have to be that spiritual warrior and absolutely know 1,000% that will the outcome when you sit down to manifest this. You have to know that it will happen. You cannot have a bit of doubt. You can have any hope. It is a knowingness, and it is a firm commitment where you know that you will be safe. There is no other option. And as you put energy into that thought and it manifests within you, you will have your own natural vaccination, if you want to use that term, protection from the virus. And for those of you who have taken the vaccine, you can also go into your body and negate that. Yes, that is true. But again, you need to have total commitment, total commitment, 1,000%. 100% is not enough. It is an absolute knowingness when you sit down to work on this. Do you understand?
Okay, yes, thank you so much. So our last question is from Laura. Will the people that created this, quote, pandemic and vaccine scare be charged with crimes against humanity someday?
At this point in time, it is not seen that that will happen. However, humanity will come to a point where it will understand that punishing people who did this is counterproductive, because it will create more karma. It will create more problems in the future than it is worth. The concept of good and bad is going to go away. This duality that humankind has been living through for centuries of time will be going away. In the age of knowledge, people will live their lives differently. They will know what God is. They will be harnessing God's energy. And when you do that, there is no more good and bad. Because in effect, God's energy is both good and bad. You go back into that book of books, which again has spiritual truths, but a lot of control. And it says that God created the tree of knowledge, but it was also good and bad. It was both created at that point. It was done that way because humankind had to understand polarity, because in order to get into divine states, in order to communicate with and be the divine self, you have to learn to go beyond duality and to go into the isness, to go and become the spiritual powerhouse that is no longer good or bad, it just is. And therefore, the bad, as you're talking about, the darkness, it will fade and no longer be there. And the people who entrenched this and worked for the dark forces will either, for one reason or another, cease to exist or come into the light. It'll be their choice. But they won't be able to exist in their negative energy once the light has established itself and has totally encompassed the world. So therefore, it's not really seen that these people will be punished, but these people will not have any power any longer, and they will either be part of the light or they will no longer exist.
Okay, thank you. And we do have one other question from Luvera. What can you tell us about the upcoming booster shot?
The booster shot is created to start the process again. As was stated before, the vaccine only lasts a certain amount of time, and therefore the antibodies that are in a human body, because they receive the vaccine, eventually grow weak, and therefore are no longer affected. So they need more energy, if you want to use that term, and a booster shot gives that energy to make these antibodies be strong again, so they can fight the virus for another period of time, or until another variant is created and therefore starts another process. But this is just part of what they want to control, and therefore then that's the general way it works.
Okay, thank you. And I really want to thank Carl again for the vision he shared with us at the beginning that he had shown shown Sydney, because that was so beautiful. That really touched my heart. So thank you for that. No more questions.
The most important thing I can give you, my friends, is knowledge and hope. And therefore, that vision that we showed the medium to be shared with you was intended to inspire you. Because many of you did not realize or do not realize the amount of spirit that is walking with you, and the fact that these spirit people understand the days to come and the challenges to come. And we are here to fortify you and therefore help you along your path. For the age of knowledge to be established, we need strong, spiritually knowledgeable people. And you, my friends, are being trained to be in that army, if you want to use those terms. And therefore, it's important that you understand you are not walking alone. And I know you've heard that before, because I've said it to you before. But having the precise vision and the precise knowledge that it's not just la-di-da people, spirit people who are walking with you, but strong spirit people, warriors that are walking with you, who know the truth, who can express the truth, the 1,000% that we were talking about. They are walking with you. You need to feel their strength. You need to feel their knowledge, and you need to know that you are as invincible as they are. And this is what we set out to teach you on this very sad day. We needed to teach you that you are much more than your body, that you are much more than what you can see, and even more than you can feel, for you are surrounded by spiritual warriors. Go into the Bible. It was written there many centuries ago that happened. And you will see, for as I taught you, the Bible is a book of psychic history, of mediumistic history. The spiritual truths are there, and all the baloney's there too, as you know. And there's a lot of it, a lot more than even I realized when I was on the earth plane, but I've come to understand now. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, for when the word Bible comes up, as many people do, they are blinded by their religion and what they believed about that book. You have the sieve. You can put those words through a sieve, and you know what is truth, and you know what goes in the garbage bin. And therefore, don't be afraid to use that sieve. Keep what's good, because it's there to inspire you. It was deliberately placed in the book in order to inspire you, because this whole era of what you call the end times, of this time or when we're going from one age into the other, this was all prophesied and known centuries and centuries ago. You were the ones who chose to be living at this time, to experience this, and to become spiritual warriors for the light. Therefore, we are here to assist you in achieving your mission. So when it does become time for you to join me in the world of spirit, you will be joining with the feeling of self-satisfaction that you accomplished what you came to do. So it's with these words that we are fueling the intensity of your knowledge, and you are no longer walking in faith, but in knowledge. So be it, my friends. I leave you with my blessings.